He approached a stranger by the dairy aisle, ready to assert his authority. Unbeknownst to him, this man was a federal agent on the verge of concluding a month-long investigation. Hensley's Market in the late afternoon felt heavy. Warm air clung to the cool tile floors as people hurried to finish their shopping before dinner. Officer Trent Bayliss wasn't shopping officially. He just wanted a protein bar and a six-pack before going home. Still, in uniform, he felt always on duty. Passing the bakery, a man near the dairy case caught his eye. Tall, early 40s, athletic, in a dark windbreaker, phone in hand. He wasn't pushing a cart or picking up items, just observing. His eyes subtly tracked shoppers, occasionally meeting Bayliss's gaze before returning to the yogurt. That was all Bayliss needed. He angled his walk directly toward the man, strides intentionally loud, chest slightly puffed. He stopped a little too close by the butter. "You with store security?" Bayliss asked, his tone already implying suspicion. The man looked up slowly, calm and assessing. "No," he replied evenly. Bayliss disliked the brevity, the confidence. "You've been watching people a little too long to just be here shopping. You planning to pay for anything?" The man raised an eyebrow, not in defiance but confusion. He slipped his phone into his back pocket. "Sir, I'm in the middle of something," he said quietly. "Interfering with what?" Bayliss fired back. "You're not law enforcement, I don't see a badge. You're not store staff and I don't like being lied to." Bayliss wasn't yelling, but his voice had a sharp edge that drew attention. Heads turned. A woman stacking apples slowed. A kid at the deli whispered to his mom. A manager behind the customer service counter took a step forward, but hesitated. The man kept his hands visible, remaining too calm for Bayliss's liking. "My name is Deshawn Rucker," he stated. "Special Agent, FBI. Badge is in my back pocket. I'm not here to talk to you." Bayliss didn't blink. He hated being told he was wrong, especially so directly. "Let me see the badge," he demanded, standing taller, hand drifting to his own belt. Rucker moved slowly, no sudden gestures, pulling out his badge and flipping it open. Bayliss barely glanced at the ID before waving it off. "Anybody can carry a fake badge," Bayliss scoffed. "You think you're the first guy who tried that?" Rucker locked eyes with him, still no anger, but the silence grew heavier. "You need to back up," Rucker said. "You're interfering with a federal surveillance operation. You're about to blow a case we've been building for 6 months. Bayliss scoffed. "Then you should have let someone know." Local law enforcement was going to see a guy lurking around the yogurt aisle looking suspicious. "I don't owe you notification," Rucker replied. "This is federal jurisdiction. Now step back." Bayliss felt eyes on him. A woman across the aisle held her phone, angled slightly, recording. Another shopper whispered. People weren't walking by anymore, they were slowing down, watching, judging. And like clockwork, Bayliss doubled down. "If you don't have something with a signature or someone I can call, I'm detaining you right here." Rucker didn't move, didn't blink, didn't touch his badge again. "You really want to go that route?" he asked. Bayliss didn't answer, just stood there, jaw tight, buzzing with energy. But just as things seemed poised to escalate, someone else entered the aisle, someone Bayliss hadn't seen coming. She was shorter than Rucker, sharp-eyed, hair in a tight twist, dressed inconspicuously in a slate-gray sweater and dark jeans. Yet her presence hit like cold water. Agent Sienna Corbin said nothing at first. She simply stepped between Bayliss and Rucker with the ease of someone accustomed to high-stakes environments. Bayliss blinked, she hadn't been there a second ago. Corbin's tone was quiet but surgical. "Officer, you're interfering with a federal operation. You need to take a step back." Bayliss held his ground. "And you are?" She opened her badge folder, holding it at chest level. "Special Agent Corbin. I'm Rucker's partner. You've compromised surveillance." He let out a short, unnatural laugh. "Two people claiming to be FBI, no coordination with local PD, no visible suspect. You expect me to believe you're both just grocery shopping for justice?" Corbin's eyes never left his. "No, officer. We expect you to exercise basic protocol and professionalism." Bayliss ignored the sting. He pointed at Rucker. He was just standing there watching folks. No cart, no list. Looked like he was casing the place. "You profile all men buying yogurt?" Corbin shot back. That landed. A teenager filming from behind a soda display snorted. Bayliss turned slightly, noticing the quiet wall of phones now raised in his direction. People weren't shouting, but they were recording. That felt worse. Rucker remained still. "We're tracking someone who's been using stolen benefits to launder EBT funds across state lines," Corbin explained. "She was supposed to meet a contact here. Now she's probably long gone. Bayliss narrowed his eyes. And you didn't think to notify local authorities? We don't telegraph live surveillance, Corbin replied. It's called containment, until you showed up with your mouth and your badge swinging. That one caught him square. He looked around, eyes darting, noticing more shoppers frozen mid-errand. A dad holding a baby with a pack of diapers, a cashier leaning on her register. It wasn't chaos, it was worse, a heavy, real, silent tension. I was doing my job, Bayliss said defensively. No, you weren't, Rucker finally spoke again. You were acting on your own judgment. Not a call, not a report, just a hunch. Bayliss's lip twitched. I had a right to question. No one's saying you couldn't ask a question, Corbin cut in. It's how you did it. You went in looking for a problem. Bayliss felt it now, heat crawling up his neck. He wasn't used to being corrected in public, especially not by someone with command in her voice. But there was something else under the surface, a flicker of recognition that maybe, just maybe, he'd misjudged this entire thing. Even if you are FBI, Bayliss said, reaching for something to hold on to, this still isn't how it's done. Corbin took a breath. We're not going to debate tactics with someone who interrupted a federal tale without cause. Behind them, a store manager, mid-50s, red polo shirt, thinning hair, walked up cautiously. Everything all right here? He asked, eyes bouncing between uniforms and badges. We're good, Rucker said calmly. No need for you to get involved further. Bayliss turned to the manager. They say they're FBI. You vouch for that? The manager raised his palms slightly. I don't know who anyone is, but I know she came in before. I saw her near the pharmacy, texting and walking like she belonged. He was here earlier, no trouble. Didn't buy anything but didn't cause any. That didn't help Bayliss feel better. He shifted on his heels. So where's this suspect of yours? He asked, trying to regain control. Corbin turned slightly, scanning the crowd. Gone. Thanks to you. Bayliss wanted to say more, wanted to challenge that, but the silence beat him to it. From behind, someone muttered. He just couldn't stand seeing a confident brother standing still. Bayliss spun around, trying to identify the voice, but nobody claimed it. The crowd had changed. What had started as subtle glances was now quiet judgment, phones pointed down, not because people were done recording, but because the story had already been told. He turned back to Rucker and Corbin, his jaw locked. I want names. Full names. I'll file a report. You're welcome to, Rucker replied, expression still unreadable. We'll be doing the same. But even as Bayliss started to back away, reality was already crashing through. Their suspect was gone, and he was the reason why. Bayliss stepped back, but not far, just enough to appear to be giving space while still hovering. His pride had taken a hit, and instead of letting it settle, he clung to authority like a safety rope. His hand rested on his duty belt, not threateningly but not casually either. He cleared his throat. Let's be real for a second, he said. You two show up in street clothes, no heads up to local law enforcement, and now you want to act like I'm the problem? That's a joke. Corbin turned toward Rucker, but it was Rucker who answered. You made yourself the problem the second you assumed instead of asked, he said. You didn't approach with curiosity. You walked in like you were ready for a takedown. Bayliss rolled his eyes. Oh please. You think this is about you personally? Rucker didn't flinch. No. I think it's about the way you operate. You saw a guy you didn't like the look of and you moved in. No crime, no complaint, just your own suspicion. You act like that's not part of the job, Bayliss snapped. Corbin crossed her arms. Not when it's built on ego and assumptions. That's not policing, that's interference. The nearby shoppers were still lingering, pretending to shop but clearly tuned in. A young woman by the cheese samples was whispering to a guy in sweats, and neither of them moved an inch toward the exit. The tension had shifted. Now it was embarrassment, Bayliss's specifically, hanging in the air. Trying to salvage his footing, Bayliss took out his notepad. Name again? He asked, looking at Rucker. Special Agent Deshawn Rucker, out of the Charlotte field office. You want my supervisor's name too? Bayliss scribbled. And you? He asked Corbin, not looking up. Special Agent Sienna Corbin, same field office. You might want to spell it right when you write your report. Bayliss muttered something under his breath as he wrote, then finally looked up. I've seen feds work before. You don't blend in. You don't coordinate. And now you're telling me I tanked your big operation. So what now? You gonna go cry to the bureau? Rucker didn't blink. What happens next depends on your department, your conduct, your record. But trust me, it's not going away. Bayliss straightened up. You threatening me now? No, Corbin said quickly. But you made choices in front of a room full of witnesses. Phones don't lie even if some of them delete the footage. Someone won't. Bayliss's face twitched. I was trying to prevent a crime. And in doing so, Rucker replied, you helped one walk out the door. Corbin stepped forward, lowering her voice. We've been tracking Trina Delmore across 3 states. She's been fronting a fake Purdue supplier to launder EBT funds, hundreds of thousands in fraudulent benefits turned into clean cash. She's been slippery. Today we had her. We were 5 minutes from contact. Bayliss opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. His hand fell from his belt. His eyes flicked toward the entrance. The red polo store manager had stepped back. A security guard leaned against a pillar, watching everything unfold, but clearly unwilling to intervene. We kept things quiet because that's how these cases work, Rucker said. When you walk up loud, escalate, and make assumptions, you don't just embarrass yourself. You damage real investigations, people's livelihoods, federal resources. Bayliss tried to find some angle that would shift the tone. You could have just shown the badge when I asked. I did, Rucker replied. You hesitated. I moved slowly for safety. You're a cop, you know why. Bayliss didn't respond. The silence stretched again. Corbin stepped back beside Rucker. You're going to have to write this up. We will too. But I suggest you leave the part out where you tried to detain a federal agent mid-surveillance based on your gut. From the back of the store, a young man holding a box of cereal muttered, Bro got schooled right in front of the cheese. Someone else laughed, soft but enough to cut through the silence. Bayliss's ears burned. His posture sank a little, though he tried to mask it. I'm done here, he said stiffly, closing his notebook and turning on his heel. But as he walked off toward the automatic doors, Rucker's next words followed him, and they weren't for Bayliss. They were for the case that had just slipped through their fingers. Rucker exhaled through his nose, slow and steady, but his jaw clenched. Corbin watched Bayliss walk toward the exit, shoulders rigid, hands twitching like he was still fighting to save face. But the damage had been done. He's lucky we kept our voices down, Rucker muttered. Could have turned into a full-blown incident if we didn't keep it measured. Corbin scanned the store again. Most people had gone back to shopping, but the atmosphere was different now. That low-level hum of retail noise had shifted into something quieter, more careful. Nobody made eye contact. They all knew something had gone sideways, even if they didn't know the full story. Corbin tapped her earpiece, her voice low. Control, this is Delta 6. Surveillance was compromised. Subject likely exited during local interference. A brief pause. Copy Delta 6. Confirming exit through north entrance 10 minutes ago. Visual lost at parking lot. Corbin swore under her breath. Rucker crossed his arms. Trina's smart. She knew we were watching, just not from where. But once she saw the uniform go in hard, she'd bolt. They stood still for a moment, letting the weight of it settle. Months of setup, paperwork, sting prep, contacts in 3 cities. Trina Delmore had finally agreed to a face-to-face drop. Everything had lined up until a rookie mistake by someone who wasn't even part of the operation dismantled it in 30 seconds. Rucker turned to Corbin. I want a call with Shields today. I'm not letting this get swept under a rug. She's expecting it, Corbin replied. Already left a voice note. Told her we'd report on scene breakdown and timeline. Rucker nodded, jaw tight. Did the store cameras catch her? I'm sure they did. Doesn't help much if she's already out of the lot with burner plates. Rucker's hands curled into fists, then relaxed again. From the other side of the store, a young woman with a badge on her lanyard approached. Not law enforcement, but store security. Excuse me, agents? Corbin turned. Yes. I'm Dana, assistant security lead. I've been watching the footage from earlier. She, your suspect, was at register 9, paid cash, left with a green bag, maybe produce? She ducked when the officer came into frame. Rucker stepped closer. You have the footage? I pulled a copy already, Dana said, holding up a small USB drive. Her hand was shaking slightly. Thank you, Corbin said, taking it. Send your manager our contact at the Charlotte field office. We'll follow up. Dana nodded quickly and backed away. As she left, Corbin gave Rucker a look. She's sharp. She paid attention. That alone puts her above Bayliss. Rucker paced a short distance, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You good? Corbin asked. No, he said. But I will be. She didn't press further. I was watching the register line the whole time, Rucker said. I had eyes on Trina. She wasn't twitchy. She wasn't clocking me. Not until he walked up on you like he owned the place. Rucker shook his head slowly. We spend all this time trying to move quiet, blend in, do it by the book, and then a guy with a badge and a chip on his shoulder barrels through like it's a traffic stop. You didn't lose it, Corbin reminded him. You didn't escalate. I wanted to. I know. But you didn't. That's what matters. Rucker exhaled again. She was right there. Corbin didn't respond. She didn't need to. It wasn't the first time they'd watched something fall apart at the last second, but this one stung more. This one wasn't bad intel or a tip that went cold. This was someone else's mistake interfering with their hard work. We need to regroup, Rucker finally said. Corbin agreed. Let's head to the car. Debrief while it's fresh. We'll patch Shields in from there. They began walking slowly toward the exit, passing the cooler section where this all began. Rucker's eyes drifted toward the butter shelf, the spot where Bayliss first blocked him. I could see it in his face, he murmured. He didn't come over to ask anything. He came to confirm what he already believed. Corbin didn't answer that either. What could she say? It was true. But as they pushed through the sliding doors and stepped into the fading daylight, the guilt of a missed call wasn't the only thing hanging between them. There was the question neither wanted to say out loud. Would this happen again the next time they tried to do their jobs quietly? They sat in silence for a moment inside the unmarked navy blue SUV parked 2 rows from the store entrance. The windows were tinted, the dashboard quiet. It was the kind of silence that didn't need to be filled, not yet. Rucker stared out toward the storefront, arms resting on his thighs, while Corbin typed quickly on her tablet, logging the incident. He finally broke the silence. We started tracking her in Birmingham, remember that gas station off 3rd Avenue North? Had 2 kids in the back seat, looked like she hadn't slept in a week. Corbin nodded. And she still spotted the camera in the pump cover. Tapped the kid's shoulder and told him to duck. She's no amateur. She's not reckless either. She only surfaces when she has a new buyer or a new method to wash the money. Corbin paused her typing. This was her 3rd sighting in as many weeks. Alabama, then Tallahassee, now here. She was moving faster. That's what worried me, Rucker said. She was getting bolder. Meeting face to face. That's not her usual pattern. Maybe she got desperate, or maybe she thought we were losing her. Corbin turned the tablet so he could see the paused surveillance image from the store's camera feed. It showed Trina standing in front of Register 9, wearing a rust-orange hoodie and black leggings, head down, her left foot half-turned like she was already anticipating movement. You see that? Corbin said, pointing. She clocked him the second he entered the store. Didn't even glance at us, just saw a uniform, figured something was off and made a move. Rucker nodded. She's been inside the system before. That reaction was trained. A short silence fell again and Corbin returned to her notes. She was never supposed to make it past the parking lot, Rucker said. We had traffic cams prepped, plate scanners along all 3 exits. We had a clean ID on the burner phone she used to confirm the meet. Corbin frowned. And we got clipped by a patrol officer on snack run. They let that sting hang in the air. It wasn't just about Trina, it was about the hours, the night scanning footage, the risk they took running fieldwork in borrowed clothes and rental cars, the pressure from DC to deliver something substantial before the fiscal review. All of that undone in seconds by someone acting off instinct instead of information. You know what the kicker is? Rucker asked, voice low. He won't even remember her face. He came in so locked on me she became a ghost in the aisle. Corbin didn't respond, but her face said enough. The dashboard chimed. Rucker pressed the button. Agent Rucker, go ahead. A crackled voice came through. Agent Shields on the line. Conference in when ready. He looked at Corbin. She nodded once. Patch her through. A second later, Special Agent Miriam Shields' voice filled the cabin. Clear, firm, professional. Deshawn, Sienna. Just got the early report. Sounds like we lost her. Confirmed, Corbin said. Interference from local law enforcement. Uniformed officer engaged Deshawn during live surveillance, broke cover. Suspect exited store mid-distraction. Shields didn't ask for clarification. She knew how these things went. Were either of you harmed? No, Rucker said. But the officer was confrontational, tried to detain me after I presented my badge. Sienna had to step in. Pause. Name's Trent Bayliss, Corbin replied. Badge number logged. We've got internal footage, store security pulled helpful material too. Another pause, then Shields' voice dropped into that even-tempered tone Rucker recognized. I'll be speaking with Fayette County Sheriff's Office tonight. They're going to want a report. Be factual, be direct, no emotion. Already working on it, Corbin said. Shields added, We'll reassign surveillance to the Tallahassee office in case Trina doubles back. You two head back to base. No tail, no stops. Copy that, Rucker said. Shields didn't offer encouragement or comfort. She didn't need to. She knew what this meant for them. The line clicked off. Corbin closed the tablet and leaned back in her seat. Well, that's that. But Rucker wasn't done. Not mentally. He was still in that store, standing beside the butter, trying to explain himself to someone who didn't want to listen. She's not done, he said quietly. Trina. She's going to surface again, maybe sooner than they think. I know. But even as they sat in the calm of the SUV, the truth sat heavier than anything Shields had said. Because the damage wasn't just about one missed target, it was about knowing this wasn't an accident, and it could happen again tomorrow. Trina Delmore didn't run. That was what made her so hard to track. She moved like a regular shopper even when the plan changed. She paid in cash, used bags from other stores to blend in, and kept her head down, but not low enough to look suspicious, just enough to avoid recognition. It wasn't a scramble, it was a strategy. She'd parked 3 aisles over from the front entrance, closer to a nail salon than the grocery store itself. That morning she swapped out her tags at a self-serve car wash in Lumberton, just over an hour south. She didn't need speed, she needed silence. By the time Agent Rucker was being questioned in the dairy aisle, Trina was already halfway to her car. She didn't break stride when she saw the patrol vehicle in the lot. She didn't look back when the store's chime echoed behind her. She slid into the driver's seat, glanced once in the rearview, and pulled away like she'd forgotten milk at home. Back inside the store, Rucker had felt it in his gut the moment the officer blocked him. He knew this was going to cost them. Timeline matches, Corbin said, eyes on her tablet again. Bayliss entered at 5:12. Trina paid out at 5:14. Was out the doors by 5:16. Gone before you could even reach for your ID. Rucker looked away, annoyed, not at her, at himself. I hesitated, he muttered. Not with him. With her. I should have tagged her sooner. You had her. We both did. You didn't blink. I trusted the timeline too much. Corbin tapped the screen. She deviated, but not by much. Still kept the meat short. Probably realized something was off the second Bayliss walked in. Rucker's voice dropped. She saw the uniform. Didn't matter that it wasn't aimed at her. She saw heat and got out. He shifted in his seat. The store parking lot was quiet now. A woman walked by, pushing a stroller. A man loaded groceries into the trunk of a silver Camry. Everyday stuff. But just hours ago the scene had been something else entirely, an operation balanced on a razor's edge. Let me ask you something, Rucker said suddenly. Corbin looked up. You think if I looked like someone else he still would have stopped me? She didn't answer right away. I think, she said carefully, that he didn't see what he should have seen. He saw a guy standing still, not a badge, not a mission, just someone he didn't think belonged there. Rucker nodded slowly. You handled it, she added. I'm tired of handling it, he said, and the words sat heavy between them. Corbin didn't try to solve that. Instead, she flipped to the next page of her report and started logging vehicle data for Trina. Make, model, plate variations, last known locations. The grind of the job kept moving even when morale didn't. Her burner pinged off a tower west of Florence an hour ago, she said. Heading south. Might be pushing toward Charleston or bluffing. Rucker replied. She could be switching cars again. They both knew it didn't matter in this moment. They weren't in pursuit. They weren't in range. The net they'd set had been torn open, and Trina, for all her quiet skill, had only needed one thing to slip through: distraction. Outside, a police cruiser rolled slowly through the lot. Different department, nothing urgent, just presence. Rucker tracked it until it passed. I'm thinking about filing a complaint, he said suddenly. You should, Corbin said. Not out of spite, out of necessity. I'm not even mad at the badge, he added. I'm mad at the way he used it. Like a hammer looking for a nail, Corbin said without looking up. Rucker gave a dry laugh. Exactly. She finally set the tablet down. We'll recover, she said. She'll slip up again. They always do. He nodded, but he wasn't convinced. It's not about recovery. It's about what we normalize. If guys like Bayliss get to charge and screw up and walk away without understanding the damage they cause. He trailed off. Corbin waited, then finished it for him. Then it keeps happening. But before either of them could say another word, Rucker's phone buzzed with a new alert. Trina's burner had just pinged again, this time from a truck stop 90 miles away, and it wasn't heading south anymore. The sun had dipped lower now, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Rucker stood outside the SUV, leaning against the passenger door, arms folded, the tension still riding his shoulders. Corbin paced a few feet away on her second call to the Charleston office, coordinating a potential handoff. They were resetting, pivoting, but the sting of the day hadn't dulled. He spotted him before he heard the voice. Officer Trent Bayliss walking back toward them from the side of the building. Alone. No backup. No swagger this time. His gait was slower, and his eyes flicked toward the ground every few steps. Rucker stood upright, not moving forward but not backing away either. Corbin clocked him too and ended the call quickly. Bayliss stopped a few feet from them. "Look," he said, voice quieter than before, "I'm not here to argue." Corbin crossed her arms. "Then don't." Bayliss shifted his weight awkwardly. "I didn't know. I didn't mean to interfere." "You didn't ask," Rucker replied, tone steady. "You assumed." Bayliss rubbed the back of his neck. "I've been on the force 7 years. I've seen stuff. I've made stops that turned out to be right, even when they didn't look right at first." Corbin snapped back. "And how many of those didn't look right calls started with someone who looked like him?" Bayliss flinched but didn't deny it. Rucker stepped in. "You saw someone standing still, not causing trouble, not breaking a law, and your first move was confrontation, not conversation." Bayliss looked down. It didn't feel right. Him just watching people. "I was working," Rucker said. "In that moment I was focused. My job is to watch." "You didn't look like law enforcement," Bayliss muttered. "That's the point," Corbin cut in. "We're not supposed to. It's surveillance. Blending in is part of the job." Bayliss let out a breath. "I didn't think. I reacted." Rucker walked a step closer. "And that reaction? Cost us a suspect we've been tracking for over 6 months. She's not just stealing government benefits. She's part of a larger operation that preys on vulnerable communities, families trying to make ends meet while she launders stolen EBT into cash. And she walked because you couldn't stop yourself from playing the hero." Bayliss winced. "You think I was trying to be a hero?" "No," Rucker said. "I think you were trying to be right." That hit deeper than Bayliss expected. He looked away, hands on his hips, chest rising and falling. Corbin softened just a hair. "You didn't know. We get that. But the difference is you weren't open to knowing. You didn't leave space for that." Bayliss nodded slowly. "You're right." They let the silence linger for a beat. "I've got to report the incident," Bayliss added. "Supervisor called me, wants a full written account. I'll include everything, full names, timeline, my part in it too." Corbin raised an eyebrow. "You planning to leave anything out?" "No. I'll tell it straight. I messed up." Rucker looked at him carefully, then asked, "You know what really bothered me the most?" Bayliss shook his head. "You didn't ask why I was there. You didn't ask what I was doing. You jumped to what I looked like. You saw me and assumed control." "I didn't see an agent," Bayliss said honestly. "No," Rucker said. "You saw a threat. And I wasn't one." That landed harder than Bayliss was ready for. He nodded again, this time slower. "I've got work to do," he said. "With myself, I mean." "You've got a badge," Corbin replied. "What you do with it after this, that matters more than what happened here today." Bayliss looked up. "I hear that." He turned to leave but stopped. "For what it's worth, thanks for not escalating either of you. You kept it level." "I didn't deserve that." "No," Rucker agreed. "But we gave it anyway." Bayliss didn't reply. He just walked off, this time not looking around to see who was watching. But as Rucker turned back toward the car, the alert from earlier buzzed again. Trina's burner had pinged a second time, not far from where they sat, and suddenly the day wasn't over just yet. The alert blinked on Rucker's screen, urgent but quiet, like a tap on the shoulder instead of a scream in the ear. "Second ping," he muttered. "Truck stop off Highway 74. 22 minutes from here." Corbin was already pulling the GPS up. Could be her. Could be the buyer. Could be a setup. "We don't sit on it," Rucker said, slipping into the driver's seat. "We move." They didn't speak much as the SUV pulled out of the lot. Rucker drove with precision but not speed. He kept it legal, focused. Corbin prepped gear from the passenger seat. Camera, pen, external mic, backup badge folder. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was calculated, all attention, no ego. As they turned onto the on-ramp, Corbin's phone buzzed. A known number. She answered with a clipped, "Corbin." The voice on the other end belonged to Captain Terrence Ruhlman, Bayliss's supervisor, measured, older, with the tone of someone who'd seen enough to speak plainly. "I just spoke with Officer Bayliss," he said. "I understand there was an incident." "That's putting it lightly," Corbin said. Mind giving me your version before I get it from the report? Corbin summarized the encounter, keeping her voice professional. Rucker kept his eyes on the road, listening without reacting. When Corbin reached the part about the suspect walking out during the confrontation, she paused. "We had a 6-month case lined up, Captain," she said, "and one poorly timed intervention blew the window wide open." Captain Ruhlman didn't argue. "Bayliss is filling out a full report tonight," he said, "and I've already started an internal file. Doesn't mean he's getting thrown under a bus, but it does mean we're not pretending this didn't happen." Rucker finally spoke. "We're not looking for someone to lose their job. We're looking for accountability." Ruhlman was quiet for a moment. "You two have any kind of paper trail on this suspect?" "She's been on the radar for interstate benefit laundering since 2019, Corbin said. "Operates under 5 aliases. Moves quiet. We've tracked her from Birmingham to Florida. Today was the first time she made contact at a fixed location." "That makes this even worse," Ruhlman admitted. "All right, let me do my part." Corbin ended the call. "No goodbyes needed." "I didn't expect him to own up," Rucker said. "Bayliss? No. His captain, maybe that's the shift," Corbin replied. "Some of them are starting to understand it's not about blame, it's about responsibility." Rucker gripped the wheel tighter. "Tired of watching us have to stay calm when someone else blows through every line." Corbin leaned back slightly. "You think Bayliss learns from this?" "I don't know," Rucker said. "Depends what he tells himself when no one's listening." As they neared the turnoff for the truck stop, Corbin brought up the satellite overlay. The location was quiet, a handful of parked semis, a small diner attached to the fuel station. The ping had come from a prepaid phone, likely the same burner Trina had used earlier. "Want to go in quiet or flash the badge?" Corbin asked. "Quiet," Rucker said. "We lost once today because someone came in loud." They parked off to the side, near a row of vending machines. Corbin adjusted her jacket and placed the mic in her collar. Rucker placed the small camera pin on his shirt and pulled a baseball cap low over his eyes as they stepped out of the vehicle.